Hello, welcome to Premier Scene. I'm Claire Bueno as we enter day 4 of the 55th BFI London Film Festival, and we kick off tonight's proceedings with Dee Rees' Pariah. It must be such a joy to make a film that has the potential of changing people's perceptions.
Yeah, we wanted to, not to be cliched, but we were hoping to kind of change people's attitudes, kind of like a popcorn bucket at a time. Like we really, felt that, people could see themselves in this film, and that regardless of background or sexuality, that, people could see that this is a film about identity. And so we do hope that, it changes some people's minds. And actually, the producer, Nikisa Cooper, screened the film for her parents, who weren't, all that enthusiastic when she came out. And, her father left in tears. So, already is, showing that, it's getting people to think differently.
Change people's attitudes, really, isn't it?
Right.
And it's obviously a personal journey for you, this film. Was there a catharsis after you made the film?
Absolutely. This film is semi-autobiographical. I should say I never experienced any physical violence, as the lead character does, but when I did come out, my parents tried to have an intervention. And so for me, this film was about, transposing kind of my, experiences, fears as a 27-year-old onto a 17-year-old, and, asking the question, even if I had known at that young age who I was, would I have had the courage to be that person? And, it's a layered story in that it's not so much about coming out as it's about coming into. So Alike's character, she knows that she loves women, that's not the issue, but her question is how to be that. And so she's in this tug-of-war where her best friend is telling her that means one thing, and the opposite of her mother's telling her that that means another thing, and neither of those things is her. It's about her figuring out how to be her authentic self.
How did that affect you emotionally as you were filming?
I think during the writing was when I was most, affected by it, because in the writing, there's a tendency to try to protect the characters and to not, let them be flawed. But, as I workshopped it and kind of got some objectivity, I was able to allow the mother to be flawed, allow the father to be flawed, and kind of allow everybody in the script to be imperfect, and that really elevated the material and makes everything more believable.
And it was originally, it was always intended to be a feature film, but that you made a short. Was that the right step for you as a vehicle to getting the feature made?
I think so. I think it really helped us in terms of selling the film, and really kind of, through its travels on the festival circuit domestically and internationally, show that there was an audience and show that people were relating to it. And, at the end of the day, when we did go out to investors and we had our business plan and we had our budget, the short film was like a big selling tool to say, all right, this is what it's going to look like. Here's a perfect sample. So it was really great. And, yeah, it was really great in terms of also connecting with our audience, because all along allowed us to start talking to the people who were going to be supporting the film in the end anyway.
And of course, connecting with the audience, that you recast Ade Perro as your lead actress. So was there any hesitation that you would use her again?
No, there was no hesitation. And, we were just worried just because it was taking so long to fundraise for the feature film, but she was always game. And Ade Perro plays the lead actress Alike, and Pernell Walker plays Laura, and Sarah Melissa plays Sharonda, the little sister. So we knew that we wanted to bring all those women back, and that they were absolutely essential to having the story told right.
And just as well, the financing, you've sort of touched upon the difficulty of, I believe you sold your apartment to get this film made, is that correct?
Yes. It seems really scary now, but at the time it just was necessary, and I guess we were taking a leap, but we weren't really looking down at what could go wrong, we were just looking ahead. So looking back, it seems like a big deal, but at the time it just was a part of what had to happen to get the film done. And the producer, Nikisa Cooper, and our attitude was, if we can't invest in ourselves, then how can we ask others to take that investment?
Next up we have 1 Minute of Darkness, and we speak to director Christoph Hochhäusler to shed a little light. Can you tell us the inspiration behind the film for us, please?
Well, it's a quite special 3-picture project, and I did one, and the 2 others by very respected older colleagues of mine. And it all started with a conversation via email, actually, and it went on for a year or so. And after a year of very vivid and controversial conversation, we had the idea we should do a conversation with films. So we decided to do 3 feature films that talk to each other, so to speak. And that was the starting point.
And your film is 1 Minute of Darkness?
Right.
Yeah, and can you tell us about the story for us, please?
Well, I basically tell the stories that is the background of the 2 other films. And my film is about a fugitive, a guy who is being considered to be the bad guy, the murderer. Everyone is searching for him. And he's like a lost child, capable of many things, bad things and good things. And on the run, he has to decide or find out what he really is. Is he the monster everyone sees in him or not?
Fair Very, very interesting. And when the three films were all set up, was there any particular rules that you gave each other that you had to follow when you wrote the scripts?
Well, very early on we said it's not supposed to be a puzzle, so it's not like fitting perfectly. It's like independent films that have connections, and every once in a while a character would travel from one film to the other and so on. So I mean it gives you, I think, enormous pleasure to see all three films, but you can also appreciate each single film.
And you've shot on a red as well.
Right.
How has that liberated you as a filmmaker?
Well, you know, basically you decide for the format because it's cheaper, and then you discover that it's actually quite a good camera system and so on. So yeah, I mean, there are things possibly that weren't possible on film. I mean, you can make longer takes, and you can, for example, use the material you shoot, because it's quite high resolution, to go in the frame and so on in post, which is something you couldn't do as well with 35 or something. But you know, it's always a pragmatic decision. I mean, you look at your budget and say, I want this and this and this, and then you have to
compromise one way or the other.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's like life.
Well, she's come from the loneliest planet to a very busy festival. We speak to Julia Loktev to find out more.
A film about a couple traveling with a guide, and during this trek in the mountains, their love is tested, and we don't really know how it comes out, but it kind of goes through this test in the middle of the wilderness.
Well, and what was the spark that made you want to write it?
I was traveling actually myself with a boyfriend in Georgia, the country, not the state. And while I was traveling with him, I remembered this short story that I had read about a couple traveling. And somehow in that moment it made sense that this was the right time to do the film.
And how hard has it been to get the film made during, you know, obviously the world suffering with the economic climate? Has it been difficult to raise funds to get the film made?
Well, I think it's always difficult, and it's difficult to make kind of more artistic movies, but once they're done, it's kind of, you forget the painful part and you're happy it's finished, you know.
And you're here at the BFI,
Exactly.
so what does that mean to you being here?
It's our London premiere, so I'm excited to show it here in London. I think it's a film about people traveling, which I think, you know, in a way, the British do so much more than Americans, so I think it's something that people will relate to, is they take time off to travel across the world.
And how do you feel after making the film you've evolved as an artist and as a director?
Oh, that always takes years of therapy to figure out, doesn't it?